Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for attending this webinar. We hope it's a very intellectual and useful one for you. So thanks again for giving us the time to attend this panel. So for the past few decades, conflicts in the MENA region have been shaping a very disturbing future for our youth in terms of employment. And there's like up to 25% of unemployed youth here in the MENA region, which is one of the highest, or actually the highest in the world. To be honest, this is a logical result considering the conflict consequences on the economy. So my name is Ahmad Rantisi. Today I will be moderating this webinar under the title Rethinking Employment, the Virtual Workplace. Now, rethinking employment, it has become a new idea after the recent pandemic, which we know that it did affect a lot of businesses, and the unemployment rates have been going nothing but up. And many businesses have shut down, and lots of people have lost their jobs. In this panel, we hope if we can highlight our work options, best practices, and innovative solutions that came up with this pandemic, so we can all together overcome this challenge of unemployment. So let's kick off this webinar by giving the floor to our honorable panelists, Mr. Hugh, Ms. Mahboobeh, Ms. Jouman, and Ms. Abeer. If you guys, and I would like to start with Mr. Hugh to give us a brief introduction about yourself.
Hi, thanks, Ahmed, and thanks to the organizers and sponsors for this conversation. I'm really looking forward to hearing what everyone has to say. My name is Hugh Bosely. I am founder of Reboot Camp, or RBK. We're an immersive career accelerator focused on delivering durable skills to youth in regions of conflict. So across our 3 campuses in the Middle East and Africa, we've trained refugees from 9 different countries. And our graduates are going out there and they're making a difference in the world, contributing tens of millions of dollars so far to local economies and building the tech ecosystem in these fragile countries.
Please, Abeer, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for hosting us, and thanks to you even for being with us today. I'm Abeer Yazji. I work with UNDP as the Leadership and Economic Empowerment Specialist. Thank you.
Mahboobeh, please.
Hi, everyone. At the beginning, I would like to thank you for the warm welcome and to thank the organizer and to invite us to participate in this conference. My name is Mahboobeh. I'm working almost 10 years. I'm working in Saleh Tech as a program manager in employability unit. Okay.
Thank you very much. Jouman?
Yes, hello, I'm Jouman Najjar. I'm a student at the Gazi Antep University studying food engineering, and I'm one student from Al Fakhura student and an entrepreneurship in Turkey. I had my own startup.
That's very great. Thank you very much, our honorable speakers, for giving us the time to be here. And let's kick off our discussion with you, Jouman. Jouman, first of all, I'd like to thank you not just for attending this panel, but also for working so hard along with our teams to design this series of webinars. And over the past few weeks, we've got to work together kind of closely, where I learned that you're not just a student, you're actually a mother, a working mother, and an entrepreneur. And you've recently, as you've just said, launched your own startup. Now, let me tell you, this is a lot to juggle for one person. And I am impressed, truly. So could you please tell us more about your startup and your personal experience with the COVID-19 pandemic?
Okay, thanks very much for you, Ahmad. And it's very great for me to meet you and deal with Arabic youth like you, great Arabic youth like you. First of all, before answering your question, I'd like to highlight that one of the benefits of coronavirus or COVID-19 pandemic on me and the e-work by myself as a refugee is participating with you in this conference. Actually, every year I had several invitations for different conferences at international levels, but I couldn't attend because I have some challenges in the legal documents for a refugee as me here in Turkey. I couldn't travel outside Turkey. It's very difficult to travel outside. So I couldn't attend them. But now I'm here with you because our conference is conducting online. So that gives me an opportunity to be with you. To share with you, and that gives me an opportunity to share with you some challenges and the achievement of the Arabic youth who are studying and working at the same time. When I came to Turkey in 2014, I came here to Gaziantep and I decided to continue my study without looking to the challenges that would face me, and I would to achieve my goals. Fortunately, I came a student for Al-Fakhura, which opened for me the entrepreneurship world. I developed my skills, I promote my capacity, and I won in a business competition for startups in Turkey. And now I have my own startup. Let me speak for you about my startup. Tell you about my startup. It's Balance Bite. It's called Balance Bite. It's cuisine, which is a healthy virtual food cuisine that offers innovative and delicious meals accustomed to the user's preferences and their health situation, and provides the customers with a medical consultation and professional dietitians and regular follow-ups for them. And actually, for me, as woman, as mother, as a student, as entrepreneur, and as a founder for Balance Bite Cuisine, before this pandemic, I was really going to or thinking to suspend my startup because I don't have enough time to study and to develop or work with my startup and give time for my children, for my husband, for my house. But after the COVID-19 pandemic, the universities became online. They used online learning, and also my meeting with customers became online too. There is no need to go to the workplace, no need to think where will I put my baby, which is who is just 6 months old. She's too small. That gives me open for me a big space to allocate between my study, my startup, and my children.
You could actually manage with the e-learning coming online. You could manage to start your startup and manage your time between being a mother, a student, and that. Yeah,
but that doesn't mean that everything is going good. Also, there is challenges in e-work. Nothing is going good, of course.
That's absolutely. Actually, just thank you very much. This is actually great to hear that you've been using a crisis that happened to the entire world, and still you could use it to benefit and to launch your own startup. This is actually very inspiring. Thanks a lot, Jouman, for sharing that. Now let me go to Mr. Hugh. Mr. Hugh, you're the CEO of RBK, which uses the term extreme learning and the approaches for the youth skills development, which, as I have read and I have heard, that it involves closed boot camps for 4 months, up to 4 months. I can imagine how challenging that would be for such a structure of a program to be shifted online. So can you please tell us more about what is extreme learning, what are your approaches, and how did you manage to take your work online, if you actually did?
Yeah, sure. again, thanks Ahmed for moderating. Thanks for the coordinators. Thanks for the questions. So briefly, extreme learning combines some traditional methodologies: fail-based learning, problem-based learning, immersive learning, collaborative learning, learning together. Kind of mixes in some agile scrum, so we do it in pairs, like pair programming. We do it in sprints. We do retrospectives, all of that. Plus, we mix in a bunch of mindfulness training. So all this is sort of combined into what we call extreme learning. And it's best done on site. It's best done face to face. It's best done in the lab, the learning lab. When COVID hit, we were actually in a better place than most. And why? Because our co-founding partner, Hack Reactor, had been doing their immersive program, their 13-week immersive program. They had been doing that online for about 4 years at this point. So they had a lot of they had learned a lot of lessons. They shared those lessons with us. They gave us their playbook. They coached us. And the real challenges, of course, is, most of what we focus on is delivering durable skills. They're not technical skills. Yes, our graduates they can produce a professional grade web application, front end, back end. They can do all that. But more importantly, and much more important to our hiring partners, are what we call durable skills. Problem solving, communication skills, self-learning, English. So most of our effort is focused on that. And those are extremely hard to deliver through the wire. The good news is Hack Reactor had kind of figured this out early on. And our transition from an on-site program to a remote program was actually, I don't want to say seamless, but it wasn't fraught with the kinds of challenges and experiences that a lot of other education organizations experienced when they went online. So, but of course, the big challenge is to build community. That's easy to do in the classroom. That's easy to do in the lab. It's much more difficult to build community online. It's much more difficult to engage your learners in the same way. But again, we had the playbook. There's a lot of different sort of ways that we were able to keep things interesting, using different digital tools. And we've run, during COVID now, we've run 5 cohorts between our 3 campuses. And we have been so pleased with the results that actually we're shifting part of our program now, which is the first 6 weeks, we're shifting that to online entirely. We're doing away with the on-site, we call it Bootstrap. It's basically a 6-week introduction to software engineering, introduction to pair programming, that sort of thing. So we're taking that now completely online. And we're just going to be focusing on the immersive training in our different physical campuses.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hugh, for sharing. This is actually fascinating. I've always been fascinated with the extreme learning concept since the day that I have read about it. Now let's go to another leading institution in youth development, Saleh Tech, Ms. Mahboobeh. Saleh Tech is well known by its diverse and different online programs. One of them is Ta'mal, where you would bridge the gap between the graduate skills and the labor market skills. Can you tell us more about Ta'mal and the online programs you have at Saleh Tech, and how did you manage to support youth in the MENA region with the current pandemic?
Let me first give a very quick overview on Saleh Tech. Maybe some attendees didn't hear about it. So Saleh Tech was founded by Her Highness Sheikh Mahmoud bin Nasser in 2008 to address the critical and growing need to create jobs and expand economic opportunities for young people. We work through 3 main pillars, which is employment, enterprise development, and policy and research. In employment, we help youth transition to work through improved guidance, skills development, and linkages with employment opportunity. In enterprise development, they support the startup and the growth of sustainable, job-creating youth enterprise across the world. And policy and research, through it, we undertake research and mobilize knowledge in order to improve the effectiveness, impact, and sustainability of youth-serving programs. Saleh Tech believes that young women and men need the technical skills to perform specific tasks as well as core work skills to secure that first job, as well as explore the labor market, learning to learn, communication, problem solving, and teamwork. The building blocks for lifelong learning and the ability to adapt to change are development of core skills, awareness of workers' rights, and understanding of entrepreneurship. However, this was slightly changed after COVID-19 by increasing the importance of new skills needed to enter the market. This is available for free on Ta'amal along with the new job opportunities online that fits their skills set and experience level. What is Ta'amal? Ta'amal, Saleh Tech and Microsoft joined hands in 2012 to create Ta'amal. Ta'amal is the first employability portal in Arab region, a platform that could be personally relevant to each young person across countries, rural and urban divides. We wanted to bring together different resources, opportunities, and initiatives for young people who were eager to learn, grow, and perform, and who just didn't know where to start. Ta'amal's main advantage is it is a strong, systematized network with employers, with trainers, with researchers, and job seekers as well. On the top of that, Saleh Tech nowadays is targeting youth entrepreneurs and linking them with the labor market through motivating self-employment and facilitating access to finance for projects that support livelihood.
Well, that's very great knowing that you would cope after the pandemic to increase the amount of programs that you provide. And actually, let me tell you, it's a little satisfying hearing that from you and from Mr. Hugh, that so many institutions working so hard to ensure better life and better future for youth in the MENA region. And one of these institutions is actually UNDP, and where under the Ahora Program, Abeer, you yourself have designed an entire comprehensive e-work training where you would both enhance the technical skills of the youth and the employability skills. Can you tell us more about this program and what it does?
Actually, like Mr. Hugh, Jouman, and Mahboobeh, you have started like a discussion with a very inspiring way. And also, Ahmad, when you started, you mentioned that the unemployment rate within the youth in the MENA region, it's 25%. It is a quite like not surprising, even here in Gaza, the ratio is about like 2.5 above death, which is like around 64%. Because of this, and even like all over Palestine, it's like even in Gaza, I mean, it's a 3 times West Bank. So you can imagine here within the limited resources, within the limited opportunities, we have to think differently. We have to create new ways for youth. And here, as Ms. Mahboobeh mentioned, we are trying to provide youth with different opportunities and different ways in order to get more and more employment opportunities. For this purpose, we started to think, what are the main reasons behind not getting jobs? What are the main challenges that have been faced by youth here, especially because we work, like I work here in Gaza. Then we thought that like 2 main challenges. One of them is the unemployment is high because the market itself is saturated. And the market itself, because it is saturated, it's like streamlined and it's like everyone is the same, because the graduates, they lack the required skills globally. They don't have the required skills globally, and the market here, it cannot absorb them anymore. And then we thought, like, what are the problems with the training courses? And we found that like even the training courses they have received, it doesn't provide them with the required technical skills globally. Then because of this, we also went back and tried to analyze what is the situation back here in Gaza. we thought that many of those graduates with technical fields, they may find it easier for them to go to the online platforms, get these kind of like required technical skills and so on. However, what about those people who don't have technical background? What is their like destiny? How it's going to be? We started to think about them, and then we found out that like previously, if you don't know about like here in Gaza, most of the female, they go to the teaching like field. And why? Because they think it's like more reputation and it's more secure for the female to go to. However, within like the past like crisis for the higher education ministry and the limited resources available for teachers, along with the crises that have been faced with the UNRWA, it become like really quite challenging for them to find good jobs. But then we look back again to their skills. We found out that many of them, they can work as translators, they can work as digital marketing, they can work as like content writers, and many other opportunities for virtual assistant if they have like the minimal technical skills. For this purpose, we put our beneficiaries in our mind and in our hearts so we can benefit them. We started the discussion. We developed a very comprehensive program with our partner. Like currently we have G Gateway as our implementing partner for this, which they have also intensive experience, and they would support us in designing the right program for our beneficiaries. Also, what would differentiate this program from others? Many of the programs, they would care about like how many attendees, how many people they join this training, or how many like their level of satisfaction. But for this program, we raised the bar, and we thought out like, is this what we are looking for, their satisfaction? They cannot measure their satisfaction until they see the income, until they go for the outcome. And for this purpose, we started like, no, this is not the evaluation system we want. This is not the way we want to evaluate the success of the program. So we have a very comprehensive results-based management tools and framework in order to measure this. We care about like the sustainable employment for them, how we try to shape their future employment. And this is what what was the aim behind and the vision behind our program. We want to facilitate, we want to bridge the gap between the higher education and the employment, especially the labor, the market, I mean the local and the international labor market, to open a new gate for them.
Thank you so much, Abeer. It's actually has been clear long time ago in Gaza that we're having the problem both ways. We have a market that is saturated, and people and graduates who are not skilled enough for even international markets. So let me thank you on behalf of my colleagues here at Ahora for your great efforts, you and your colleagues in G Gateway, for giving so much efforts to design this program. So let me go now back to Jouman. Jouman, you spoke earlier about your personal challenges and how did you overcome them with this pandemic. But over the past few weeks, you've met with a lot of your peers, not just in Syria where you're from or in Turkey where you live now, but also in many other countries in the MENA region like Palestine, Lebanon, Qatar, and Sudan. Can you elaborate and tell us more about your peers and the challenges that they would face on a daily basis?
Of course. At first, let me speak just a lot about the causes of unemployment, that which vary between countries depending on the economic and political and social conditions dominating in every country. But most of the important challenges that may face the graduates youth in the MENA region are insufficient job opportunities. Like here, I think it's his name, Tahir Zed, who he is an attendance for in this conference. He said that in Palestine, in Gaza, they have huge capacities, the graduates, but they are not given opportunities. And this is really main challenges for educators in the MENA region. And another challenge is the mismatched skills. But lately, e-work concept has spread and played a main role to strengthen the experience of these youth graduates. I have a friend who lives in Syria and work as a graphic designer. His work needs to travel a lot from a city to a city and from a village to a village maybe, and he felt like no stable, no relax with his children and with his family. It's too hard to maybe every 2 months to travel to change your house. But after this pandemic and after COVID-19 pandemic, he could have a long-term job. He signed a new contract, and he felt relaxed, and he had his job. But challenges doesn't end in the conflict areas like Palestine or Syria, where there is no strong internet, no network, no mobile network available, and electricity cuts for a long time. And the people at first surprised that how the person will work away from his workplace and away from his job team. But after a bit of time, they used to the remote work, and they started looking for ways to create a suitable environment for working online. And maybe without needing to cross borders. No, it's very difficult to cross borders. And they realized that the importance of e-work or remote work for working online with need. They realized that this importance of e-work or working online raised the employment level in their region, in the conflict region. And there is another friend whose name is San. He is a pharmacist graduates, and he came to Turkey to search for a better life, but he couldn't work as a pharmacist because of legal terms here in Turkey. And he saw that he wouldn't work by his graduated certificate and started to look for another opportunity. Then he realized that he had skill gaps, so he developed his skills and he promoted his capacity without having rest. And now he has his own consultancy startup and signed a lot of contracts with UN agencies and international or local NGO. And he had his own startup, but also he couldn't travel outside as a refugee. It's very difficult.
It's sad and a little bit also, let me say, a little glad that I can see that some people who are managing to overcome their these barriers by their own, even without help of other institutions or organizations. So thank you very much for sharing that, Jouman. And if I want to sum up, Miss Mahboobeh, so Jouman spoke up of the challenges that that people would face, and if I want to sum up with that, it's regarding the tools people would use, electricity and the mismatch and the flexibility of movement and the freedom of movement and the flexibility that each job would have to be actually able to do this job online. One might say, if we want to rethink employment, if we want to get back to the main topic of this webinar, if we want to think like employment, we need to rethink the nature of jobs first. Do you agree with this statement? And to what extent do you think online work can apply for other non-tech field, like the example Jouman mentioned for like pharmacists or people like that?
Okay, first, overnight, the coronavirus has changed really the market. The global outbreak has severely affected both the economy and job security. There will be sectors, businesses, and employees that can benefit from this near tragedy, but unfortunately, we are witnessing seriously damaged industries. People will lose their jobs in these areas and have extreme difficulties finding new ones. Having said that, my answer is yes. I agree that it may be necessary to rethink employment first, to rethink the nature of jobs. Thus, Saleh Tech has redirected its efforts to provide more remote job opportunities through Ta'amal, as well as organizing online youth economic empowerment programs to equip the youth with all the skills needed. This will take me to answer your second question. Businesses are undoubtedly already in a place today where their employees already possess most of their skills and are probably already users of laptops. However, this is a justified question for non-tech companies because there are many elements that we still don't know, such as how long this pandemic will last. How does that have an impact on the world economy?
Thank you. All right. Thank you very much, Mahboobeh, for sharing. It's clear that it's not just like the jobs. There are many challenges for us to shift completely remote, and we'd need like so much possibilities and to be able, like for example, Twitter have shifted their work entirely remote, and but they have the equipments and they have the community and they have all the possibilities needed to do that. My question is to you, Mr. Hugh, and judging from your technical background and also your work with the MENA region youth, do you think we have, like, aside of the skills, do you think we have globally the right tools, thinking of Zoom, Slack, and all these stuff? Do you think they are enough to cope and simulate the actual workplace and to have like a virtual workplace with the same results and indicators?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the last 3 months have really been proof of the pudding. I think you're seeing companies that are sailing along, doing great, managing to generate revenues, managing to sort of maintain the healthy HR environment online as they were doing when they were on site. Now, of course, we're in a sort of a advantageous position in that we're in tech. You know, we produce software engineers, we produce developers. But for those that are say in the construction trades, those that are in the hospitality industry, those that are in other sort of site-specific jobs, they haven't had the same luxury of maintaining their productivity. The good news is that we're already starting to see a shift where these people are rethinking their careers. They're looking at opportunities, including our organization, but other career accelerators across the planet, to retool, to get into a position where they can take off the tool belt, if you will, and pull up to the laptop to be able to maintain their incomes, support their families, and sustain their standard of living. So that's the good news. I think COVID has really sort of it's sort of the final nail in the coffin that that you have to be on site to be productive. I mean, the tech industry has been working remotely for years. My girlfriend's a consultant. She started out with IBM. Last 15 years, she's basically been working remotely. Her day starts with conference calls, ends with conference calls. So there's a lot of, I think, a lot of lessons that are being transferred to a much broader industry, whether it's banking, whether it's hospitality. I think we're going to see a sea change in sort of our thinking about how we can be productive. I don't think it necessarily requires a rethinking of the jobs. I mean, Gaza is a place that we hear that the market is saturated. That said, there's almost 1 million vacant tech jobs right now today, even with COVID. Almost 1 million. Gaza sits on pretty good bandwidth. There isn't any reason why the young women and young men in Gaza could not could not be working in these positions remotely, and some are already. The next step is to kind of kick it up a notch, and really focus on the durable skills so that these folks are much more competitive.
Thank you very much. If I may ask you, Jouman, if you can mute your mic for a second, please. Mr. Hugh, this is great input. Thank you very much for sharing. And as I understand from you, that shifting online is not just, or you could think of it not just a way to cope with the situation. It's not like just our human way of coping with such a crisis, but it also can and possibly would be a way that even a lot of businesses that have been doing their work like in person for a long time, they now can do it remotely with pretty much the same quality. And speaking of quality, I'd like to ask you, Abeer, personally, aside of UNDP, you have been working during the pandemic for over 2 months. We've been working remotely. So what is the effect was on you? Do you think it was a soft transition? Also thinking of it as UNDP is not, well, it is a big institution, but it's not only specialized in tech. So I would presume that it might be harder for them to shift online. Is that true? What do you think?
Thank you for this question. And actually, I'm not going to take it away from UNDP because I work with UNDP since for the 5 past years. And based on my experience, and also if we talk about UNDP digital strategy and the Go Green environment and the policy that we are trying to implement here, maybe we are lucky enough that we have started using a little bit of these tools even before the pandemic. So the organization, as an organization, it was we were a little bit ready. However, it wasn't scaled up. The pandemic, of course, everything happened between nights, and it was very quick, very rush, and not everyone is still used to use the technology and to work remotely for this purpose. So it wasn't an easy shift, despite we have this policy and this strategy before. And now we are using Zoom, we are using DocuSign, and we have been using many tools. And to be honest, we are back now to work. And despite we are back to work, we are still using these tools. And especially because we believe that this would save more time, this would save more efforts. Now, if we talk more about because you talked about the quality and you talked about the quality of our programs, all of us, we know that human interaction is one of the main pillars if we want to enjoy what you are doing. It's not an easy way to communicate through only tools and machines and computers, cameras, and all this. We need to have this kind of feeling one-to-one in order to really better enjoy what you are doing. Actually, one of the comments I saw, Ula, she was saying that even working online has a lot of challenges. It's true. It has a lot of challenges. But when you are in the situation, you have no other way just to think of solutions, because we believe that still our beneficiaries should be in our heart and in every single decision that we are making. For this purpose, UNDP has started and launched PATI Economic Recovery Program, which is a combination of many sub-projects. And for this project, it's we're trying to connect those people with short-term jobs to get more sustainable jobs. During the COVID-19, we could generate around over 1,500 jobs, especially in the let's say the medical field, because that's where we found more gap here, especially in Gaza, which is still the 1,500 is only 40% of the target, and we are still continuing this as part of our recovery plan. Another thing because we are talking here about Al Fakhura and our program also as well. We are facing many and several challenges, and students still face more. We believe in mental health, and we believe in psychosocial support, and we believe in this critical time. Students and their families, they would need the required support. For this purpose, we started to give online sessions, individual and group sessions. Also, like students have started to think, oh, how am I going to succeed in my studies? How am I going to pass this semester? How am I going to do this and this? So we started also to give them more and more academic counseling sessions online, either individual, or a group based on their needs. And this is just an example. And if we think of the civic engagement, because we believe in like giving back and pay back the community, we thought of like what kind of engagement and what kind of skills they need now. So we started to give them more and more skills related to communication, especially communication with their families, with their siblings, with their children, because they need their support. They need to be there. So we are so happy to say here at UNDP, I'm not sure if you are aware, but many of programs frozen and freeze their implementation here in Gaza. But UNDP believed in their partners, and we gave them the opportunity to explore new opportunities, to explore new ideas and approaches in order to jointly find the right solution, in order to jointly find the best way to benefit our beneficiaries. For this, we piloted, we tested, and for the e-work program, because we are talking about the virtual job, we could succeed to have at least 70% of our beneficiaries still continuing their engagement through the online sessions that were provided to them. And this is actually beyond our dreams and beyond our imagination, because with the let's say it's not bad infrastructure. However, let's say it's not the right infrastructure for our beneficiaries who are from the marginalized areas in order to operate from home and in order to be more and more engaged. So 70% is great success for us, we consider it. And now we are working more with our implementing partners in order to improve our services and our ideas and like any kind of service we provide them. Let me end with one thing, which is we experience even work from home with because I said like we have provided over 1,500 job placement. And we have had like around 30 who have been working from home. So even we tried this methodology to provide internship and to provide employment opportunities for interns to work from home. So it's not only us who are experiencing this, but also youth, they are experiencing this. And we have provided them with some kind of sessions and tips, how to balance between your life and work from home, how to better manage your work from home. And we enjoyed our field visits virtually. So we find it like more and more engaging with them. So it was really challenging, but at the same time, this is how we cope, and we need to overcome these kind of challenges. So thank you.
Well, thank you for your input, Abeer. Actually, a lot of Al-Fakhur students who are actually currently taking the internship and the e-work program, I know them, they're my friends, and they're happy with it. And 70% is indeed a good percentage considering all the challenges people face here in terms of electricity and power cuts and the tools needed. Speaking of these challenges, if I want to go back to Jouman, what do you think organizations such as UNDP or RBK or Saleh Tech, what do you think they can do more, or actually like what can they do to cope with this pandemic and better serve the youth here in the MENA region?
In fact, capacity building is the main block to raise employment level. So organizations like what you mentioned should encourage the youth education and develop their skills and let them understand how to do the mobilization for their community to achieve social goals. Also, holding digital workshops and virtual events to support the remote work technology. And why don't we design a program like Miss Abeer mentioned before that she's working on, I think it's named Apex, you said, which provide people advanced skills and let them know the principles of online working, which help people to work in files other than their study file. And moreover, Organizations can provide stages for educators according to every student career to let them be able to transform the theoretical knowledge to practical application, because the theoretical knowledge at university isn't enough nowadays. Of course, academic certificate is important, like bachelor, master, PhD degree, but they are just key to have a job and have an opportunity in a workspace. Because the theoretical knowledge at university isn't enough nowadays. If we don't have any job skills, also we would have less opportunity to find a meaningful job. And here we can see the great role of Al-Fakhura and their participants on the Arabic youth by developing their skills, by holding capacity building programs, computer skills programs, civic leadership programs, economic empowerment programs, and also they are enhancing languages. All of these raise youth chance and enhance the opportunity to provide meaningful employment. So we need more programs which are similar to Al-Fakhura programs. We are really in need for them. And I'm an example of hundreds of refugees that Al-Fakhura helped me to build my first blog in the entrepreneurship world. Really, Al-Fakhura scholarship is a dream for every ambitious student, because it doesn't just support us financially, but also opens up a broad scope for youth in the MENA region. Believe me, by these steps, the Al-Fakhura is preparing a strong generation of educators that they have sufficient capacities to prove themselves and be able to rebuild their countries. Thanks, Al-Fakhura.
That's true, and I second you, Jouman, being actually one of the graduates of Al-Fakhura. It's actually, but let me comment on that. It's like having more and more programs. Of course, yes, we need that. But again, as I've heard you mentioning over and over again during our discussions before this webinar, it's like it's hard to have all students in the world or all students in the MENA region being alumni of Al-Fakhura or similar programs. And one keynote that you've mentioned before is that our part of these programs can be some of the curriculum in universities. It's true. Employability skills are one of the important things that we need to better have a better future for youth in the MENA region. Let me go now to Mahboobeh. Mahboobeh, you've like in Saleh Tech, and considering the programs that you've done and how you supported it with COVID-19 currently and in the past, but what are your next steps moving forwards? What are programs that you have in mind that you can implement moving forwards and to better cope with this pandemic?
Okay, despite all the negative and harm that COVID-19 has impacted, I personally believe that, as Jouman also mentioned, on the other hand, it helps the world to necessarily shift towards online. Being said that this needs a huge effort to get all industries aligned with such changes, which has allowed Saleh Tech to prioritize the following. We prioritize three elements. First, working with our partners, especially microfinance institutions, to rely on its digital channel to overcome the repercussion of the health crisis by providing such as online services and making it possible for youth to access the fund online to minimize the risk of engaging with others. In addition, increasing focus on mobile money with the new microfinance initiatives and accelerating partners' digital transformation in the health crisis, especially the lending process digitization. Also, in the second thing, we equipping the youth with post-pandemic skills, online with collaboration with all esteemed education and training organizations. In addition to using CGSs and technology to leverage and provide financing to micro and small enterprises during COVID-19.
All right, that's great hearing that you guys are getting prepared to actually help this youth even more and more. What about you, Mr. Hugh? What does RBK have in mind to serve the youth in the MENA region for the future, considering the pandemic and considering the challenges we're going through?
Yeah, well, one of the things that we've discovered is that we can effectively impart not only technical skills, but also these non-technical skills, these durable skills through the wire. And so what it means is that our program, our curriculum is going to be opened up to a much broader group of youth. So right now we're active in largely Tunisia, Libya, Palestine, Jordan, pulling students from Syria, Iraq, Yemen. But moving forward, by taking our bootstrap program specifically online, we're going to be able to democratize, if you will, the program and make it much more accessible. Of course, the pedagogy that we use is quite expensive. It involves not one person speaking to, a class of 30, but in fact, about 10 to 12 people moving 30 to 40 learners through a 6-week program. And that's what really sort of separates us from, say, a Udacity program or even a university program where, it's just basically you're watching videotaped lectures. There's a lot of interaction involved. And this is the way that you kind of build these, you raise emotional and social intelligence, that you increase self-awareness, that you promote mindfulness and the kinds of personality traits that correspond to success in industry. So that's the exciting thing. I mean, we've really we would not have tried this had we not been forced to. So it's better than making lemonade. Actually, we're excited about being able to have people access our program from areas that never could before. The peninsula, the Gulf states, deeper into the Middle East, and also Turkey, and all of North Africa. So that's kind of the main, I think the main push for us in the next 2 or 3 months is to, we worked out a lot of the bugs, we've worked out a lot of the kinks, and the one thing that does remain is the technical challenges. Folks at home, internet connections, laptops or desktops. This is the sort of the missing piece. And what we're sort of embarking upon right now is try to match equipment with learners. So you're in a remote village in Iraq or in Jordan or in Libya. Get you a laptop either through Thaki, which is an NGO that basically repurposes surplus equipment, or to be able to purchase this equipment, get it to basically loan it to these learners during the course of the program. So building that kind of capacity certainly takes some marketing efforts. And but the good news is there's a lot of people out there right now that see value in this type of training. They see results, and they're willing to underwrite these costs, which are more than, say, an Udacity program or a Coursera program.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hugh. Indeed, actually, as we spoke earlier, it's not just about the skills, but also about the tools that we need. And I do understand how hard would it be logistic and wise, how hard would it be for distributing laptops or actually loaning them. That would be even harder. But it is a problem that we're facing, and I really hope that we can find innovative solutions to overcome this. Loaning is one of them, but it needs like a very great structure to do it, right? So let me end with Abeer. Abeer, so you spoke earlier about the eWork program, right? And how it was beneficial in Gaza, and how are you're happy actually with the percentages and the results it's coming up, and I am too, and everyone is. So my question to you now, what does this mean for the entire MENA region? Do you think there are lessons learned that can this be implemented elsewhere other than Gaza? What are the lessons learned from this experience?
Actually, let's say it's not that we can implement it everywhere and in any other country. It's like we need to contextualize this and ensure that it is based on the context, and it is based on where the beneficiaries or where the learners are. I cannot agree more with Mr. Hugh when he said that we need to match equipment with learners. But here I would say that we need to match between programs and learners. We need to ensure that the programs as well meet the needs of the learners or the beneficiaries. We live in a very dynamic world where every day there are like new technologies, new things, and even new tools that we need to cope with. We need to be aware of. For this purpose, let's say we need to work hand in hand with other organizations, with other counterparts, with other stakeholders, and even donors in order to streamline this and in order to look at the broader side and the broader view of this kind of projects. Is it applicable? I would say it is applicable to some extent if we ensure and if we can provide the required infrastructure for the beneficiaries themselves. And also we need to not to forget, in order to succeed in any project any other way, we need to ensure that it's not only the human capital that is there. We need to ensure also that the systems are ready. The governments are supportive, the host communities are supportive in order to absorb this kind of benefits or this kind of projects, and to allow and to give a space for refugees or for MENA youth, even if they are IDPs, refugees, or even like normal citizen in those countries. So human capital is one of the main issues or one of the main things. For this purpose, we need to ensure that we have the best trainers, that they are trained, they are well prepared. We have the required or the best curriculum with clean and clear direction and instruction in order to ensure this kind of standardization with the information and how they can, like the students or the beneficiaries can go back to it. If we look at this from another side, let's say we need to ensure that even the local communities are ready not only for crisis, it should be for crisis and beyond. From our experience with our other UN sister agencies in the MENA region, when we started to think of the e-work opportunities for Syrian refugees and even citizens in those countries, we found out, like especially for the Syrian refugees, one of the main challenges in their participation and commitment is that they keep moving. They keep moving from one place to another, trying to find better opportunities, better welcome the communities, and it depends on their context, their family, all these kind of issues. So what really differentiates e-work programs, they are considered more concise, short, direct, comparing to other programs. And the end result, if they really commit, if they really learn or be really open to new ideas, the end result would be more sustainable employment opportunities. And this is what we aim for. So I would say yes, if we consider other factors during our design of the programs, during our consideration. One last thing that I would really like to highlight, that we have been facing many challenges. We have been saying that how we can benefit youth. But I believe one of the main things in order to benefit youth, we have to consider them in our decision making. They have to be more involved in our decision making, and they have to be also presented in the table. And I would say that why I'm enjoying this conference, it's because I believe I can see I can feel, I can trust the youth who are leading, who are working behind the scenes. I know that, for example, Ahmad now, he's not only alone in the room. I know that his team is always, all of them, they are there, they are supporting them. So if we trust youth, if we give them the space, if we give them the opportunities, they may come up with new ideas, with new opportunities to support themselves. Maybe we don't understand them that much. We need to give them the
Um,
space also more.
Well, thank you very much for your trust in youth, Abeer. And actually, indeed, yes, if we want to implement such a program in other areas in the MENA region, there's a lot of things to consider, especially the culture that you would have, like the freelancing culture here in Gaza is becoming like up and up and up with, you know, the unemployment rates going up with it. But if you want to implement it elsewhere, you would have to actually put so much efforts in building the community first and convincing people that this is a thing. There is freelancing and e-work. So actually, we're done with the questions of the panel. Let us go now to the Q&A from the audience, and we have here to Hugh, to Abeer, sorry. So the question, and I'm going to read it. What do you think the gaps between skills training that provides and what is still needed by employees who can train program best fill gaps? Okay, so there is a problem with the English here.
I can see the question. I can help you.
Okay,
I can see the
go
question.
ahead.
It's from Jouman. It's from Joanna, and it's like I would be more interested to hear what do you think about the gaps between what skills training provide and what is still needed by employers and the market. How do you think training programs can best fill these gaps? Okay, actually, this is a very let's say good question, because we always say that there is like this kind of gap, but we need to understand the roots behind this gap. And let's start with the roots. Is it the market, or are they the students or the youth themselves, or it is a combination between both? I would say it is not only youth or employers or the market. It's more into a multifactorial issue that we need to think of it broader. We see that most of the employers, I'm not going to generalize this, but I'm going to say my personal opinion on this, that most of the employers, when they announce for jobs, they announce they want like someone with like at least 3 years of experience, who have X, Y, Z of skills. But then what about those students or those fresh graduates? How we can give them more opportunities? This is one thing. The other thing is normally even students, these kind of people like youth, when they are at university, they totally focus on education, but they rather forget their personalities, their characters, and how they need to balance and how they need to get engaged more in the community. Because when you get the job, it's not only about your technical skills. It's also about your competences, your other personal skills. So I think we need to have this kind of combination. We need to prepare the youth not only for the job itself, but for the market, either globally or let's say locally. One thing also to highlight is we have seen many researchers that would say that the gap in order to find good job for example, for those students or graduates from the English department, that they need 1, 2, 3, 4 skills, such as communication, something else. And at the same time, we can see another organization who is working on the same target group, but they will come up with different results. I guess, and I believe that we need to have this kind of joint efforts instead of having this kind of individually, and everyone, they're doing their own researches. Why not to be doing this jointly in order to maximize the benefit and in order to better evaluate the right system and the infrastructure, the programs, and come up with the right programs for the benefits for the students. So sorry, I keep saying one last thing, but this is the last thing I promise. We need to ensure that we have the right bridge and transition between the education and the employment, because there is a big transition and there is big difference between the life as a student and the experience as a student and the experience as an employee. We need to have this, of course, while taking into consideration other options and other, like this is a very big question for the employers. So we need to think of also the employers and their challenges in order to find the right employee for them.
That's true. We could go on and on about this. So yeah, you can say one last thing as many times as you want. I actually have experienced this personally. At the time that I've started working, the first thing that I would hear is, "Where is your experience?" And then I'm coming to get it. But how do I get it if I don't have experience? And it's like an always in a circle. So the next question is for Mr. Hugh, and it says, very briefly, what was the main challenge to transfer online? If you can put this in like points, what is the main challenge to transfer online for you as RBK?
Yeah. So given our goal is to really sort of impart these durable skills, it was trying to raise social intelligence, trying to raise emotional intelligence, trying to build that kind of community where people can practice being good humans together. I mean, it really goes to learning how to communicate with one another, learning how to work with others who are junior or senior or of a different stripe. That was probably the biggest challenge. But again, we had the coaching and the playbook of somebody who'd been doing this for 4 years. So it was less of a problem than we thought it would be. The transition was actually quite smooth. But it does take a lot of staff to maintain these relationships. So we're popping in and out of everybody's Zoom room. So people are learning in pairs. They have a Zoom room between them, and we have shepherds that are kind of going in and into the room, kind of passively observing, and then maybe making suggestions about the approach. We use a methodology called driver navigator. So basically one person is driving, they're not really thinking, they're kind of freewheeling, and another person is doing all the sort of mental heavy lifting. This really works well if it's done like every 30 minutes, you change roles. So we kind of monitor that, and when that's done correctly, we see amazing results in terms of the learning and the knowledge acquisition. So just kind of getting all that dialed in, getting everybody familiar with the platform. But it happened, I mean, you guys are all much younger than me. You're all much more intelligent than me. You're quicker to pick things up. And that's one of the things about the younger generations is they learn so fast. They pick up things so fast. You just need to show them once. And so it's taken a lot of the sort of the frustration of the guesswork out of our work just by, because people are so digitally literate. It really made our job a lot easier, and we continue to refine it. But our expectation is that through this COVID thing, we're going to emerge with a much greater capacity to self-learn, but also to become better communicators, better problem solvers, better, more sort of more equitable in our thinking. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Hugh, and thanks to the audience for your questions. It's indeed, there is a lot of challenging things that can happen when transferring online, and I have been facing that when we wanted to implement our programs with Gaza Sky Geeks online. A lot of things happened, and a lot of decisions were that we just had to make every day. To use Zoom, use Hangout, use what tools, there's a lot of things that happened, but also a lot of lessons learned for the futures and better quality for the virtual workplace in the future. So I just would like to thank you all, our honorable panelists, for for joining us today. It's been a very wonderful discussion. We've discussed a lot of innovative solutions and challenging, lots of challenging situations that we're being through. But also, I would like to thank you very much, not just for attending, but for your continuous and enormous support for youth in the MENA region. And a special thank to my colleague, Jouman, for sharing so much and giving us so much insights about the challenges youth would face in this. So we have 3 minutes left. If any of you would like to say a closing remark, or if you have to sum up what you have said.
I would say thank you for everyone.
All right,
and I
thank
believe
you all.
we have only 1 minute.
Exactly. It says 3 minutes here, so it's different.
Thanks for everybody. Thanks for speakers. Thanks for the attenders. It's we spent really very amazing and great time together. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. It has been indeed a great experience. So everyone, you can exit this webinar now by clicking on the left corner. There is a door button highlighted in red. You can click on it, and then it would take you to the agenda UI. All right, and then you can access the next panel, which is the closing remarks with UNDP and Education Above All with Miss Yvonne from UNDP and Mr. Fahed, the CEO of Education Above All. We'll see you there. Bye.
Thanks, Ahmed. And thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.